on and how is it, where's the money coming from? And I just wish we would be a little more specific. You know, I mean, even Richard is, I mean, CEO, I'm sorry, is saying it's a little, you know, gray.
Well, yeah, and what my concern, Capital, is it's 100,000 on the last page, and it's 25 this and that. I want to know more than that. I mean, Marty did that, Marty's gone, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Well, and that's, as part of the point of today, is trying to figure out what the board intended when they adopted that budget.
I voted no on that budget.
And as I recall, this was, Mr. Chapman was very engaged and very,
And I think it's a good idea, don't get me wrong. What you said, Joe, is exactly correct. If we're gonna sell this county, you know, the tourists and stuff, you gotta have a boundary. And that's the only common sense. I'm not against it, I just want to, I don't like these broad numbers of 25, 25, 40, 10. Okay?
We can bring it back.
Yeah, let's bring it, yeah.
Mr. Egan, bring it back.
The LEDC group is very anxious to see something done.
And so am I. Don't get it wrong, I am also very anxious to get something done, but I have a big responsibility here to the people that voted for me. And the ones that didn't. I just did that for you. And you too.
See, there's
Okay.
two losers here.
You gotta have a little bit of humor in this
Treasure.
meeting, you know. Okay, if we have any more questions on this item, Richard's gonna bring it back. Okay, we move on then? Okay, that's 8 and 7. That's 6 and 7. We're going to 8, correct? Yeah, am I good? Yeah, Peter?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Yeah, bigger, Lassen County Public Works. Good this afternoon. Okay, this is for Supervisors Park grazing lease. We've been grazing there at that park since '04, I believe. Last year we did not graze, we gave the pastures a rest. This year we'd like to graze again. We've cut back our amount of AUMs there just with the dry year we're having and everything, so we don't overgraze there. Went out to bid last month. We received one bid in from 5 Dot Land and Cattle Company. We were out for 60 pair at $16.51.
How much?
$16.51.
Wow, we're giving it away.
And for approximately 30 days, we're looking at.
Can I put a bid in it today?
Sure.
I'll give you 25.
You didn't bid.
Bid's closed. Sure do.
Maybe we should do a live one, huh?
Okay, we just have the one bid in now.
Yes.
Okay, I guess we need a motion to approve that bid. How long, you said 60 days?
It's 30 days. And we, in a way, our lease is, and that's
60
over.
pair for 30 days.
For 30 days, yeah. And the lease is over at the county council. We have language in there that basically, depending on how it's going there, we can shorten it or lengthen it, so adjust it accordingly based on AUM.
Probably even during the drought, it's probably not too bad considering you didn't graze it a year ago.
Yeah, and the dry meadows are our most problematic one because it doesn't have, you know, like the meadows that go up the Heidi Creek, you get more of the moisture and they stay greener longer, so.
Okay, any questions? Eileen?
I actually follow this, and what I was looking for when I clicked on this was normally the bids, copies of the person that bid or the bids are usually on the website. And the only reason I follow this for 12 years is that we were giving it really, I mean, like $3 a head at one point to the same person. And so I'm glad to see that it's more now, but I would like to see the full disclosure of who bid on the use of that land for the 30 days.
It was 5 Dot Land and cattle companies who bid on. for this
No,
year.
I know that now, I came to the meeting, but I don't believe the bid was published in.
The reason why we did it is with the time frame, we wanted to get the agendized so we could have it before the board, and we couldn't have the bids at the same time, we have to publish. So that's why we're here presenting to the board what we have for our bids.
Okay. Do you have a copy of their bid?
Yes, I do.
Okay, because that is public information. I usually just print it off your program, but I would like a copy of that.
Well, you can have a copy of this, but I would not say that all bids are necessarily public information, or at least certain contents of it.
Well, since I've been getting them for all these
No,
years.
I'm
You're
not
not
trying to argue
exempt.
with you, Ms. Smith.
You
I just
can't
want to give you
exempt
some
it.
information. This one is fine. What I'm trying to say though is typically with our construction bids, sometimes we will give you the bid results of what the actual bid amount is, but within those bids, sometimes we have specific item amounts, and we don't release those to keep the confidentiality of the bidding, so we don't have other issues. But in this case, it's not a problem. I'm just trying to explain that sometimes bids may not necessarily, the entire package may not
I'm
be
not
public.
asking, I'm asking for
Okay,
this
wait.
specific.
I will,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
you can have a copy of it, it's fine.
Yeah, you can have a copy of it.
Have it for you in like 2 minutes.
Does council have any suggestions or anything on this?
On which issue?
Is Ms. Spencer allowed to have full disclosure of the entire bid?
I am not prepared to make a response on that just yet. It appears that Mr. Heimbigner is comfortable releasing this one, but I don't find it necessary to opine on the other question that was presented at this time.
I have a binder, 10-year binders of these
Okay.
reports. They're not, you can't make them exempt now, which he's not trying to do.
I'm sorry I confused the issue, Mr. Chairman. I apologize.
Peter will
I
give you a
apologize.
copy of the bid.
Did I answer your question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you did.
Then,
You will get a copy after the meeting.
I'll go do it right now.
You take a copy right now, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's the seasonal use on this, just for,
We have a grazing plan in place. It is, actually, we would like to come in earlier in the first part of May, but with the events and the way we have more events picked up, we try to postpone that a little bit later till, target date is June 2nd right now for bringing the cattle
for
in.
the holiday?
Yeah, because I know that, you usually want to hit it, especially with the dry meadow, which is the intermediate wheatgrass, you want to hit that earlier, because the 4-H has more nutritional value to it.
Before it dries up.
But sometimes, I personally, I think the general public, when the cows are out there, the cattle's out there, that's part of the master plan too, is it gives you the historical context of the park that it was, ranching, it's been through many different uses and stuff. But when they're out there, it gives a different sense of the public using it. But a couple of times, the cows sometimes will get out, and during, the races, so I guess it'd be problematic. So we just try to kind of avoid that whole conflict and come in a little bit later with them and stuff. And so far, that's been working, and we've not had any problems with any of the different ranchers we've grazed with. And they're, managing, moving them around and so forth. So I think it's been a very positive experience.
Okay.
I know it had some hiccups way back when they first tried to do it, but a lot of that came back to inadequate fencing and everything.
It's also, biofuel reduction required.
That's one of the components. Yeah, we actually, I don't know, I should get you a grazing plan for it. It's fairly comprehensive. We work with David Lyle and some CAL FIRE and stuff on that.
Well, it
There's
sounds
some-
good. No,
Yeah, no,
That's
exactly.
good. I'm happy with that.
Any more questions?
Could I ask a question of him?
Okay,
Hi,
I will
Jane.
stand up, say your name.
Yes, sir. Does the county have any liability in reference to these animals out there, considering it's open range? The reason I state that is when I was here in 1979, I got encountered with, because we didn't have fences along the property, and I encountered a bull, and he was very unfriendly, and I started to run, and luckily when I was running up the hill, he fell, and a man came around the corner with his horse's dog and was able to encounter the situation. But I was wondering if the county has any liability regarding having the animals out there in that area. I mean, someone gets hurt or chased by a bull, gored.
The bull went after.
I'm just saying that
Where
this
was
is
this
county
at?
property.
Is this at your place?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that man my son?
Oh, no, this is when we first moved out there in '79. See, I didn't realize that a bull could be dangerous.
They're not if you do not talk nice to them.
When that thing weighs a couple of ton, you know, the best thing you better do is run. You know, I wondered, it's just something to think about, that's all.
Okay.
I know specific.
We have liability for everything.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the bids and we submit by 5 o'clock to the CAA.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Thank you, Peter. Okay, another thing I looked over is unagendized reports by board members. Before you report, we're gonna do it. Tom? Good. Aaron?
I do. Welcome, Mr. Burns. Glad to have you on board.
Well, thank you,
County
Mr.
Council.
Supervisor.
Me too, man.
Thank you.
The one thing I forgot to leave up when I mentioned when we told I went down to the science fair down in Los Angeles, we went through the valley, and Bob, you kind of reminded me of the day, is that everybody here, you better plant a garden next year, because from Stockton to Bakersfield, it is nothing but brown desert. Orchards are drying. I mean, it's sad to think that's a bread basket, and it's nothing but dust. On June the 4th, over in Fortuna, the California State Fish and Game Commission, they're having a hearing on the listing of the gray wolf. I think you got a couple of days to get your letters in of support and or denial, or however you sit on that issue. Anyway, we submitted a letter to that, didn't we, Richard?
I believe we
Fish
did.
and Game, I think
It's
we
been a
did.
few
It's
months.
been a while back, but.
I believe we did.
I think we did, okay. So anyway, so there's that. And then, gotta bring this up to Supervisor Hammond. I had a visit with Kathy Alves, and she was a little disappointed on her reception on the phone call regarding the EMS issues up there. You know, not returning the phone call.
I talked to her.
I know you talked to her, but she also hung the phone and accepted, but anyway, it's going through the Quad County meetings and,
I know about her.
yeah. That's what she said.
Tom, would you do that?
I'm
There's
just,
no.
just going by what she said.
Her.
So anyway, and said you were too busy, et cetera, but anyway. Went to the fair board meeting last week, they got all the animals weighted in with the steers and sheep and the pigs. They had an election of officers, and so they've got that taken care of, they're gonna keep the same president. The big issue over there is the maintenance man with the budget. So we have no maintenance, they have to do a lot of maintenance over there. And just for the record, my wife does not work for the ambulance up there, Dave, she has not worked up there for over 3 years, and her EMT license is expired, she's an EMT too, so I mean, that's not an issue that some people may have brought forward earlier than Dave, so yeah. And I believe that's all I have.
Okay, just a couple of things. A couple of weeks ago, I attended the Westwood CSD meeting, and Maury Anderson attended with me. Maury gave a really good update on code enforcement, the house that burned down right there on 3rd Street. Kind of how he's gonna handle that, but people would like to see it removed. But anyhow, thank you, Maury. You did a great job and answered a lot of questions for code enforcement. Last night, Richard and myself attended the coordination council meeting. The log talk was kind of an open deal now, but Sean Curtis, who is the staff person in Modoc County, who takes care of the coordination council, we're kind of in conversation with him to see if he might be interested in working with Lassen County and helping us with our coordination council. Forest Service Plymouth update, Wildcat Ridge biomass removal. They have a big project on Wildcat Ridge, just over the hill from Thompson Peak there, and there's gonna be a lot of biomass removal there, fuel for the mills and so on. But and what they brought up, which I like to hear of it, is biomass removal isn't grazing. You know, they're grazing planning, the biomass removal plan does include grazing, you get a lot, you get a lot of dry cheatgrass and so on, and that's like gasoline. But to get the cattle in there and remove that is a good deal. And then I think next week, there will be a letter from the Coordination Council to the CHP asking some questions on designation of your, off-road roads for use of your ATV. There's an argument over what the county says is a mixed-use road and what the CHP says is a mixed-use road, and what the Forest Service says is a mixed-use road. So we're trying to get a little more clarification on that. That should be on the next agenda. Right, Richard? And that's all I have. So we'll go to information to the Board of Supervisors from Richard.
Okay, two items. Last week, we had a discussion about the lack of an airport land use plan on the Amity field and how that might impact the request for proposals that we're hoping to release very soon. At the board direction, staff checked into the possibility of finding a consultant to prepare that plan and to get that done timely. The range of estimates is somewhere between 8,000 and 120,000 to do such a study. I plan to move forward with the $8,000 option under my authority if we can find the appropriate budget unit line item to spend that from, because I know the board's anxious to get that done. If there's any input on that.
What kind of time frame?
Probably 4 to 6 months.
That would be
I'd like to pursue this Sullivan as is, and also I would like us to take a look at that. We've spent $106,000 on a study for the Amity Airfield, and I urge everybody to read that study. I read it. Yeah, I read it, and it pretty much spells out what you can and can't do in that study. I don't know, Richard, if you've had a chance to read that. It's
I've looked.
boring reading, I'll tell you. It's tough to get through that thing. But,
I've looked at it and I agree there's a lot of good information in there. I don't think it meets the test of airport land use plan is the only problem I have with that.
what about the FAA stuff? I mean,
I don't
it's
think-
gonna have to apply to all the FAA regulations, period, end of story.
True.
And I think those are the parameters that,
Well,
they're gonna, whoever the purchaser is gonna have to follow those.
On that same line, how does the Army tie into that? I mean, if we have an airport plan, is that gonna affect the Army and their use? Are they gonna have some say on this plan that comes through? I mean,
That's another good
this
question.
certainly would have input to the plan, but I believe the plan would apply to anyone.
Well, we don't have jurisdiction on federal lands, so there's that. But we would work in concert with them to develop our plan, and our plan would contemplate the disposal of the properties eventually, of the property, the runway itself. And it doesn't meet the test, the federal stuff doesn't meet the test. I mean, the Division of Aeronautics at Caltrans has said so.
So we'd have a pivotal decision here, whether we move forward without doing a plan, or we do a plan.
Let's look at it this way. The people who buy the property are gonna have to do this plan if we don't, right? Maybe, I don't know.
They would probably have
No.
to come to the,
They would, the
Land
purchasers would not have to do this, like, this plan.
The jurisdiction that's gonna oversee this process is the Airport Land Use Commission.
right.
Understood.
And we're not in a position to make somebody pay for the development of plan that we should have in place right now.
Right, and the same problem is that then people come, buy the property, come to the Airport Land Use Commission, and start asking questions. The Airport Land Use Commission is not gonna have the information to answer the questions.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Maury, but I think if we sold the property and someone wanted to do something out there, every activity that they would propose to do out there would have to go through the Airport Land Use Commission.
That's
Right.
correct. And then
Right.
they would be turning to look at the document.
We'd say,
that tells
where
them
the
what to do.
documents we go by,
And there would be none.
there would be none. Ms. Spencer?
Just to prepare you, we're going to do a major presentation the next time the RFP for Amity comes, major presentation, big graphs, big charts. But one thing that was incorrectly said today, and you were given discs. I think Maury prepared those discs. You really need to go in there and read that information, because one document from the Sierra Army Depot says that the airport itself, under federal law, can only be sold to a federal entity. And I'm sure Tom has read that. I think you're the only one I know that has read all that stuff.
It's tedious.
It is tedious, but there's a lot of really important information in there for this county. You can never own that. You can never sell it. There's reports in there about National Guard. The Army went out, and because of that restriction, it can never be owned by this county, never can be sold to
The airport itself.
the airport itself.
No, we're
Can-
talking,
The runway, yeah, we're talking about.
we're not talking about the airport.
No, you're talking about eventually the run, you've already, we've got the video. You've already brought in the airport being sold by the county, and they need to know this information. But you have to know, and we're going, like I said, we're going to make a major presentation on the findings from information from that disc. And you may find that you're going to dump the RFP. You're going to find that you can't even sell the property that you're spending all this time on. So don't be misleading the public that the airport is a viable thing for this county. It is not. It can only be used, and the Army, in that one of the reports, the marketability report, they went out and tried to find national entities, National Guard, all of the things. I think there were 4 or 5 federal entities that weren't interested in that airport use because of the location of it. It also has a report in the marketability. It's a really, I mean, it's long, you're right, but it has a lot of information that every single one of you need to read and go through before you bring that RFP back to this board for discussion, because you're going to find out a lot of things.
It's all there.
It's all there.
Before we get too far off topic, we're not planning on selling the runway. We don't own the runway. We may someday.
You
County-
can't.
The county doesn't own it.
You
County's
can't
not
own it.
planning,
You
not
can't
planning
own
to
it.
sell it.
I think
Okay.
the county
I
owns
understand.
property adjacent to the airstrip, and that is what we are selling. The airstrip belongs to the Army. We are not talking about the airstrip.
And I think in all fairness, and I know I've done it inadvertently, we say the airport property
We
and
do.
without clarification.
Surrounding property.
Surrounding.
Right, and just for clarification, as speakers, as we go around, we need to try to
But
choose our,
Right, and the last sale was not all of the county property surrounding the airport, the airstrip. We sold part of it. There's still property left, and that's what we're talking about now. Adjacent property to the airstrip, and not the airstrip.
So from what I saw, Maury, there's 5, 6 zones now around that airport stuff. 1, you can't build. 2, is, ding, 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 ding. Why does that take 4 to 6 months when it's just feet that we're talking about? It's measurements.
The plan will be subject to the California Environmental Quality Act. Those have some mandated timeframes. It would be wrong to tell you that it'd be shorter than that because of those timeframes.
Yeah, and,
That's it.
Tom and I both sit on the land use,
Yeah.
airport land use commission, and if someone buys that property and they come to
As
that
is.
commission asking, can we do this or that, I need something to look at. I need a document to look at to make that decision. 'Cause I can't answer that question without that document.
And that's, I think, why Maureen and I recommended last week that we go forward with
Right.
looking at this plan. In addition to prospective purchaser may want to know what they can and can't do.
We
with
need
it.
that information maybe before the people bid. I don't know how you can bid on it without knowing what you can do with the property you're bidding on. That's my thinking.
Well, and that was the understanding we had last week.
Okay.
It sounds like maybe we ought to re-agendize it and visit the issue thoroughly now that we know timeframes and cost.
Yeah, what was the cost you put on that one?
Well, I contacted several consultants and it ranged greatly, as Mr. Egan said earlier, from 8,000 to 120,000.
Oh my God.
And I think the people that said the higher numbers were probably contemplating a more metropolis situation.
You know, we gotta get that number more focused in, because I mean, we don't have a budget item for that yet, I don't imagine.
No.
That'll have to come out of 2014, 15 budget.
Well, we definitely like the 8,000.
The 8,000 would be
The 8,000 is a piece of cake, I mean, even a guy like Richard could find that. That's why I gave up to 10, you know, any more $10,000 is not much.
Why don't I bring that back for that specific discussion about, now that we have the cost and the time frame.
Why don't you bring that back, Richard?
The only other item I have, I wanted to point out, I pulled up the budget on the website and that the SEDS funds were budgeted under a line item in the non-departmental budget unit of the general fund, the line item being economic development effort. So
What's
what's the
number?
budget unit number?
Well, the budget and the line item.
100-101, and it's 3002800 is the line item.
Thank you.
Economic development
Effort.
That obviously could fit under that, I mean, that's pretty broad.
Right. And that was my point, is I just wanted to confirm
How much money's in there, Richard?
100,000.
Okay, so that's where this 100,000 that Marty put together.
So we'll bring it back with
Well,
specifics next
a
week.
little more specific. And you know, you talk on economic development, it is pretty broad in general. You can't be very specific on all of it. Okay,
That's all I have.
anything else? Did I miss anything on the agenda, you guys?
I
Did I finally get it all?
Back
I have to go back twice.
Oh.
think- Next week.